In the design phase of the ADDIE model, some questions that designers asked are these. How will the content and activities be sequenced, presented, and reinforced? What are the objectives of each session or unit? What skills or outcomes are you hoping to achieve for each? What methodology will you use to achieve each objective? What media resources will be used in the instruction? And finally, how will you assess the students' understandings of the material? Let me share to you what we did with questions dealing with content and the corresponding assessment. With regard to the content, I think you can relate to the idea that our syllabi are overcrowded. In fact, the time was not even enough to cover all the topics during the purely face-to-face format. This lack of time was compounded now that we are doing it online. During one of the webinars, we encouraged our teachers to choose the most essential topics or METs in their syllabus. Of course, we assume that these METs are aligned with the most essential outcomes that they previously identified. Now, the respective disciplines in this university chose their own strategy to select the METs. This figure merely illustrates one strategy. This is not really new, but very helpful nevertheless. Do you see the three rings? The adjacent boxes to the right may be used for writing the topic. The largest ring represents the field of possible content standards, in our case from the CHED and from global standards, for example. Given that there typically is more content than can reasonably be addressed, we are obliged to make choices. In the middle ring, we sharpen our choices by specifying important knowledge, and I refer to facts, concepts, and principles, and also skills, and I refer to the processes, strategies, and methods. The smallest ring represents finer grain choices, that is, selecting the enduring understandings that will anchor the course. The term enduring, according to Wiggins-Antigue, refers to the big ideas or the important understandings that we want students to remember in their lifetime and retain after they've forgotten many of the details. The question is, how does one go about determining what is worth understanding amid a range of content standards and topics? Wiggins-Antigue offer 4 criteria, and you may check out the source I indicated in the slide so that you can meaningfully and reflectively flex or cut down topics in your syllabi according to the need of students during this pandemic or even post-pandemic. We are also designers of assessment, right? In an OBE syllabus, we don't think about assessment as something we do at the end once teaching is completed. Rather, the OBE syllabus calls for us to operationalize our goals or standards in terms of assessment evidence as we begin to plan a course. And how do we do that? We begin with a question. What would we accept as evidence that students have attained the desired understandings and proficiencies? Now, because understanding develops as a result of ongoing inquiry and rethinking, the assessment of understanding should be thought of in terms of a collection of evidence over time, instead of a single moment-in-time test at the end of the instruction, as so often happens in current practice. In Silliman, part of our ongoing trainings was to teach and train our faculty to design a continuum of assessment methods, which include, and not really limited to this, checks for understanding, such as informal dialogues, traditional quizzes, or open-ended prompts. We also coached them how to construct a performance task and its corresponding rubric for grading purposes. This performance task is considered the final exam or the summative exam. To equip and prepare students for this big exam, we presented several strategies for formulating formative assessment types.